This week's show is brought to you by Granddaddy's Backyard Pickles. The sun is hot, the yard is nice, let old Granddad cut you a slice of pickle, that is. Granddaddy's Backyard Pickles, serving the greater Petoskey area since 1894.
Uh-oh.
Does everybody know what time it is?
Home and podcast time.
That's right, Binford Tools is proud to present Home Improvement Podcast. My name is Adam, and you all know my co-host, Jordan. Jordan, how you doing this morning? Afternoon.
It's afternoon.
Afternoon, morning. I'm
doing well. How'd the groomer go? You doing okay?
Well, I dropped the cats off about an hour ago. I'll let you know after I pick them up. So we gotta get going, man. I got an appointment to keep with the cat groomer.
I was wondering how long that would be.
It's like 3 hours, she said.
See, now when I take the bunnies in, it's like
let's get off this topic as fast as we humanly can. So
that's good because we've got two really interesting articles.
Yeah, we're not here to talk
about
cats or bunnies or groomers or even backyard
pickles.
Backyard pickles. I want to thank you to Granddaddy's Backyard Pickles for sponsoring this week's episode. We found a couple of articles. People are writing a lot of articles right now about home improvement, and mostly in
great for our show.
Good for our show. Mostly in response to the success of the Roseanne reboot. And we've got two very different articles, I would say. And I'm going to start off by talking about one that is from Vulture, but I found it on Slate, and it's entitled, Tim Allen is Not a Working Class Hero. Oh man. Uh-oh.
Hot take by Catherine Van Ardenach.
Yeah, by Catherine. So I'll pick bits and pieces here, but basically what the article is arguing is that it's, Roseanne has succeeded because this is an era. It's a lot of Trump stuff, essentially. Like, people that voted for Trump like Roseanne because she's blue collar and she's working class, and that speaks to an audience or audiences that don't have a lot of shows about people that resemble them in their lives. So with that, there has been a floated possibility of either a Home Improvement or Last Man Standing reboot. And she's arguing that neither one will satisfy Roseanne fans because Tim Allen is not a working class hero.
Tim Allen is in the 1%, is what this article is stating, I suppose.
Trying to, yeah. So it's a little all over the place. So let me read here. So Tim Allen sitcoms Home Improvement or Last Man Standing both seem like post-Roseanne reboot catnip. They're set in Middle America. Which is Last Man Standing set in Colorado, which is not Middle America.
Yeah, they assumed that was Michigan, Indiana territory.
Yeah, I don't know. In both, Allen plays related versions of the same macho man who stands up for traditional values and the right to shoot things off or saw his own hand off without intrusive government regulation. And if the true intent is to depict Trumpian sensibilities in television sitcoms, either of these shows could do the trick. But if the implicit idea is to give its audience more working-class families, as has been so lauded in the Roseanne reboot, it seems like a good time to note that Tim Allen shows do not meet these criteria. They're not blue-collar, nor do they mirror the family life of middle-class workers, something that Home Improvement was praised for in 1994. And then it moves to kind of move on here. In truth, Home Improvement and Last Man Standing are shows about wealthy families, media personalities, and massive privilege. They're very, very far from working class America. So here's the thing: I don't know about Last Man Standing, but I can only comment on Home Improvement, and I don't. This doesn't really seem like a fair reading to me. As it kind of goes on, it talks about how the Taylor how Tim is a media personality, and that is kind of inferior or lesser than a plumber or a contractor, and that makes it kind of less legitimate in terms of a blue-collar show. It mentions at the end, it says here that Al is the only one who can operate machinery, while Tim's job is to grunt and presumably take home a paycheck. The Taylors are probably not billionaires, but they live in a very large, very comfortable suburban home. In the first season alone, there are plots about the hot rod Tim restores as a hobby, Jill and Tim attending an opera fundraiser, and Tim installing a new satellite dish that will get 200 channels. They are a far cry from the working class. What's your take on all this?
That satellite thing doesn't really fit alongside the other 2 points that Catherine makes here, but I don't know. I don't ever, they're definitely not billionaires, as she says. Right. I don't get the idea that they're really ever struggling necessarily, but I also don't see them as like this top 1% family who lives in a mansion. Like, we've seen their house. It's not a mansion. It's not small. It's not a mansion.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I would wonder how...
Yeah, what's working class? Because in season...
I would wonder what blue collar is to this person.
Because in season 1, Tim is the sole provider of a family with 3 children. Jill's not working. So, like, to me, that is very representative of, like, working class. And I mean, like, blue collar is... I don't know. Blue collar is kind of a stupid way to describe, like, okay, he's not blue collar because he's on a TV show, but like this article posits that like the show is like extremely successful and nationally renowned, and that he, like is like a prima donna and he goes through like makeup, and it's very, very much like a fly by night, like public access kind of operation. He's essentially like a glorified salesman, not a media personality. They just talked about last episode how they just got into like Spanish dubbing, right? Yeah, so it's not.
They're not like prime time.
Well, she compares it to the reality show Dirty Jobs, which is like, again, that's like that guy's like nationally renowned. Tim is Royal Oak renowned. The restoration of a hot rod as a hobby, I don't. Do working class people not have hobbies? I mean, like...
all they do is work and come home, and that's it. They can't do anything.
He's restoring a hot rod that he bought for a low price. The opera...
Presumably, dirt cheap.
The opera fundraiser thing is, like, that's, like, related to volunteer work that she's done at, like, the library, which is, library fundraisers are... Again, maybe that's something that working class people don't do, but certainly it's not something they can't do. And the satellite dish thing is like, I don't know. It's just like, I feel like people really hate Tim Allen, which is fine, I guess. Like, it's fine. I don't agree with his politics or like certain things that he has said in the past, but like people put these shows to a microscope and try to like transcribe them using their own kind of beliefs and ideologies and just like really see what they want to see. And this is just a very unique reading and fairly inaccurate, I would say, to the show that, we watch an episode every week. So I feel like I'm pretty familiar with.
Yeah. So let's reach out to Catherine and get her on the show, and we can.
I would doubt that we would want. I doubt. I mean, like, no disrespect to Catherine, but that doesn't sound like a very good time.
I'm just wondering how much she watched the show. I didn't see anything in there about
the next
article.
1.
Yeah, the next article I'm going to talk about is a different take, but this person, their credibility is they watched it growing up and also just binged all 200 episodes recently. So this person seems like they maybe watched more than Catherine might have.
Yeah,
but
fair enough.
But yeah, that segues into that second article, unless you want to dwell any more on this one.
No, I just think it's kind of annoying.
Yeah, we don't agree with this.
I mean, I think that's a little like, I don't know. I really like.
It's a lot of straw man arguments.
I'm not protective of Tim Allen. Oddly, I have over the time of watching the show, I do feel kind of a bizarre sense or a desire to like stand up for home improvement, mostly because I feel like the lenses of which people look back on the show are just not accurate. It's not accurate. It's not the show people think it is, and I wish
not even really the show that I remember it being. To be honest,
no, it's a lot different. And I'm not saying it's always good.
No,
quite often it's not. But it's not. It just isn't doing these things with masculinity or like. I mean, obviously the Taylors are not in the 1%. It's an entirely different show than people think. And if you pick and choose like various episodes or moments or things like, you can kind of transcribe those in a way that can make it seem like it is sort of sexist, and sometimes it is, or misogynistic. But like on the whole, it's just a very, very different show than I think society chooses to believe it is.
Mm.
So
Good
get
point.
bent, Slate.
Vulture was the original.
I mean, same. They're
must
owned
be
by the
affiliated.
same company.
So maybe from a non-accurate reading to perhaps a more accurate reading would be this Decider article that I found.
Yeah.
This was written by Brett White at Brett White, 2 T's.
Is this the same guy that wrote the?
Hard to know.
Jill Taylor is the greatest TV mom of all time?
I don't. Well, probably because he does mention that in this article.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
the title of the article, and we'll link these in our show notes. But before ABC revives A Home Improvement, remember it was an indictment of toxic masculinity. So kind of the opposite stance that you usually hear in regards to Home Improvement. Tim Allen being the machismo guy who wants more power. Basically, like I said, Brett watched all of these episodes on Hulu, just as you do, and he came away with the formula of pretty much a problem arises at home or at work, and Tim makes it worse by recklessly dumping gasoline on it. He gets advice from his cultured next-door neighbor, Wilson, and then Tim fixed the problem by using his newfound knowledge and often not more power. Brett goes on to say that the men that also are more lifted up in the show than Tim possibly are the men surrounding him. So we've got Al Borland, Richard Karn, the sensitive sidekick that does end up being a butt of every joke. But the show constantly reminds us that Al is way more popular and that the women love him and that he is much more competent in home repair than Tim. So, he bucks that stereotype of masculinity in several ways, as we've seen. And then there's also Wilson, the neighbor, who seems to come at things with a lot more philosophy and liberal arts type education, and he's not really subscribing to the same things that Tim do, but Tim does. But Tim often takes his advice, which is obviously a little bit different, as we see pretty much every episode. And then it makes the note about Jill being a sitcom mom that was kind of in the middle between Roseanne and Carol Brady, someone that Tim can't walk over. There's several times where they argue about stuff and Jill ends up getting her way. We think about when Tim wanted to invest in the hardware store and she just basically says, no, that's not happening. Stuff like that. So she doesn't get steamrolled. So all those things combined kind of make the argument for this Decider article, saying that it's not really what people remember. People do remember the grunting. They remember Tim making those stupid jokes that we talk about and call out when he does. Right. But really, if you look at what the show is talking about, it's really kind of undermining his type of persona.
Yeah, I would say the show posits that Tim is the dumbest person on the show, knows the least, and makes the most mistakes. And every episode is kind of relating to Tim learning a lesson, or like this episode. I mean, I'm not spoiling it, but essentially, when he's talking to Wilson at the end of this episode, it's why can't men ask for help? And that's the big thing that this episode is kind of addressing or trying to address. And it is exploring, it's taking masculine kind of themes and stupid male tropes and exploring them, and Tim believes them at the start of the episode, and then by the end he has kind of learned that maybe this type of masculinity or these masculine beliefs are kind of archaic, outdated, and sort of dumb, and then he kind of learns and then moves on. So yeah, I agree. I definitely like this article and this reading better, and I think that it's probably the result of someone that has seen more of the episodes and, I don't know, has a... and I mean, obviously I like it more because they align with my beliefs, but yeah, a greater familiarity with the episodes and has maybe explored beyond the first season, and I don't know. Yeah, I enjoyed this one, or I enjoyed hearing about it, certainly.
Yeah, so... like we said, we will post links to these articles, and you can read for yourself and decide... which side of the argument you might come down on. I mean, they're not exactly juxtapositions, because one's about white
one is
class,
basically would Home Improvement work in the same way that Roseanne is working?
Yes.
For those viewers, and I mean maybe it wouldn't. I honestly have no idea. Yeah, just the definition of working class, and that one kind of ruffles my feathers, as well as saying Colorado's in Middle America. Okay.
Sure. And then
Sure.
the second article obviously focuses a lot more on masculinity and what that looks like and what you remember about the show. So definitely both worth reading and thinking about.
Do you remember when we started the show and we couldn't find anything? There was never... All the articles that we pulled from were 3 or 4 years old from weird Australian publications, and now it's really, kind of in a golden age.
Yeah, the paradigm has shifted, and now we're in the new golden age of home improvement.
Yeah, and it's great. It's great to be at the forefront of that.
Yeah, we're glad to be. It'd be hard to tell based on our listens or our Twitter followers, but we feel like we're on the forefront.
Hey, it's not, we're not decreasing in any visible metrics, so at least not exponentially. One thing, Jordan, we should talk about kind of as we talk about a home improvement reboot is that we have... we finished the reboot script. I guess.
Wait. Let's not say. Wait, hold on. Let me give the credit where credit is due.
Okay.
You finished
right,
the reboot. I've read it multiple times and made small suggestions.
Yeah,
but you have lifted. You have lifted the tide of all boats surrounding you here.
Okay.
So
well,
I'm
guess
not going to let you
yeah.
get away with saying we.
Okay. Sure. I finished the reboot script. Jordan, you did some editing. And, you came up with the idea that kind of launched the whole thing, so that without that, who's to say where we're at? But the script has been finished. We are playing around with ideas in terms of what we want to do with it. So I don't want to say much about those until we've kind of figured out. But we're definitely going to be releasing portions of the script to everyone, maybe additional pages to Patreon subscribers, and we'd like to possibly do a live reading on air. It's about 26 pages, so about the typical length of a home improvement script. And I think it turned out pretty well. I feel excited about it, and marginally proud.
It touches all the right notes: the nostalgia, the hitting back at today's youth, the jokes of generations.
As a member of today's youth, it was just...
you really wanted to attack yourself and indict yourself. And
millennials.
Yeah, and then just kind of the interplay between different generations and not quite understanding each other. And it's an interesting read. I think it would make a great reboot, and we'll definitely share some of that information going forward. But we're excited.
Yeah,
we're excited
definitely.
for that.
Cool. Speaking of excitement, Jordan, I'm excited to talk to you about this week's episode, which is entitled Ye Olde Shoppe Teacher?
Yeah, Ye Olde Shoppe. There's a question mark at the end.
Wasn't necessarily sure.
Yeah, it's definitely at the end. There's a question mark on this episode. But yeah, this one written by Howard J. Morris lasted Let's Go to the Videotape. And this one aired November 29th, 1994. No interesting trivia, no tidbits on the word title, really. So let's move into alternative titles, of which I have 3.
I have 4.
And you have 4, so that would, I'll let you lead off.
That would equal 7. Yeah, let's do it.
That is math.
All right, so my first one, original title is Ye Olde Shoppe Teacher. First one, Student Becomes Master.
How about The Man Behind the Tool Man?
Okay, good. Second one, Talkin' Shop.
Oh, my second one was Let's Talk Shop, so.
Okay.
I guess this would be my last one then. When a man loses hands.
I like it. I mean, it doesn't matter how bad the title is if you're singing it.
If you're singing it, you automatically get points.
All right. Okay, here's another one. Arteritis.
Do you have any where you stick a word into a sentence?
I mean, arteritis is close.
I want a better one, like the eel one.
Are you where it's are you? Yeah, something like that. All right, my last one is, how great thou art.
Lovely.
A man of the clergy. Yeah. Tim Allen, a man of the clergy.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's it.
That was pretty good for us.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't want to toot our own horns too much,
but I mean,
yeah.
Pretty good.
Here's the thing about the plot synopsis this week.
Oh, I saw. Wow. new guy.
New guy. Daniel Timothy Day, and he's done 200.
Do you think that's Tim Allen's pseudonym?
DTD. That's all I can tell you.
Tim Dick.
He's written 285 different summaries, but this is his one and only of Tool Time.
Can't help but wonder what led to that.
Yeah, I think he just tries to do one of everything, so he's kind of spread it out between titles. But his synopsis is: Mr. Art Leonard, Tim's favorite old metal shop teacher, is invited for an appearance on Tool Time, along with some of his old classmates. Unfortunately, during a taping of the show, it becomes clear that the man who inspired a young Tim Taylor to seek more power is losing much of his own when his crippling arthritis is revealed, as well as his bitterness about his condition. So we're going to really tackle some bitterness, some arthritis, some old man syndrome.
With the way DTD wrote that one, I'm glad he doesn't write any more home improvement synopses, because that was, there's some missing words there.
Yeah, a little bit.
Also, is he what's a metal shop teacher?
I don't know. I read that the first time, but you know me, I just read what's in front of me.
Yeah, that's you.
So, with that, I will read what's in front of me on the walkthrough that I've put together.
Yes.
And we can open at home.
This is as we so often do. If you're just tuning into our show for the first time,
we open at home or Tool Time.
We're gonna walk through the episode here, so
we definitely don't run through the episode.
No, we kind of stroll, meander. There'll be some asides, but if you haven't watched Ye Old Shop Teacher and you don't want it spoiled, better turn off the podcast now.
Good thing
back.
We should do that in every episode. Warn people spoilers.
I've listened to podcasts like this where they're reviewing or analyzing really old shows, and they're like, if you don't want it spoiled, better turn off the podcast now. And it's like, hey, we've all seen Seinfeld, so it's all right.
And if you haven't, why are you coming to this podcast?
Yeah, it's an interesting. It stands to reason. That's an interesting question. Jordan, go ahead and start.
Sure, we're gonna open at home. I haven't talked about the logo very much lately.
Well, he commits suicide here.
Well, he tries to make a jump.
Yeah, it's over.
I think maybe he just rolls his ankle.
No, I think he's done.
Well, the most interesting thing is that he counts. He goes 1, 2, 3, and then he jumps from the counter to the kitchen table.
And it's strange because that's the first time I've heard the logo say anything.
Yeah, I haven't heard
things we know about the logo. Swole.
Well, not today.
Not today. I let himself go. Swole can count. Seemingly can kind of travel around the home improvement universe.
Sometimes wears shoes, sometimes has no legs at all.
Yeah, but he's done. I don't think we'll ever see him again because he didn't make the jump.
We'll let you know. We'll keep everyone up to date on
for sure.
what the logo's doing. Yeah. But Jill is working on some college stuff. I don't know if she's studying or whatnot, but that's kind of her go-to this season.
Yeah.
Which I suppose is better than laundry or dishes or whatever.
Yeah, it's definitely more progressive.
Sure. Tim finds some old shop projects. He's got a lopsided...
metal shop.
Sorry, metal shop. He doesn't say it in the show. So he has a lopsided toolbox, which is I guess going to be a focus for this episode. We're going to see several different toolboxes. But the big prize, I suppose you could say, is a toilet paper dispenser that looks a little bit like a rocket launcher.
Yeah, have you ever seen a spud gun?
Yes.
Yeah, it reminded me of that. You shoot potatoes out of it. Yep. It was basically just like that. Yeah.
Yep. And I thought it was going to be used for the bathroom, but no. Tim informs us that this is something they use to actually TP people's houses. Mm-hmm. So he goes out, and we'll see. I guess before he does that, he does talk about the reason he got all these things out is because he's going to talk to his old shop teacher today. They're very excited about doing that, and Jill ends up having Tim invite him for dinner tomorrow night. So we're going to see a lot of the old shop teacher.
Yeah, well, he lives in Toledo, and he's up visiting relatives or something, and Jill has to make his favorite meal, which is, I think, coincidentally, Jordan, this is also what you will ask for every birthday, corned beef and cabbage?
I do like cabbage in the mornings.
So gross. The disgusting meal. That's such an old... it's good writing, I guess, because that sounds like something old man would enjoy, but yeah, kind of churn my stomach.
You're not a big cabbage man?
I wouldn't eat corned beef and cabbage if it were my last meal on Earth.
Corned beef, I'm not a fan of, but in the mornings...
I like corned beef more than I like cabbage, and I'm still not touching either one with a 10-foot pole.
Well, let me do you saute it in some bacon fat?
Jordan,
that's what I do.
You could deep fry it, and I wouldn't touch it. All right? Let's move on. I'm done with this. You can't convince me otherwise.
So Tim steps outside because he's so upset about the corned beef and cabbage meal he's going to eat, and then he proceeds to TP his own yard.
Yeah. He's going to have to clean that up. So
he's going to have to clean up, but this is one of those occasions where something Tim created works.
Yeah. Yep. You got that right. Home. presumably later on that evening, it's the night of the dinner. And I tell you what, when Mr. Leonard comes to town, everybody gets real dressed up.
Tim's got a suit.
So, yeah, he's wearing like a tie and a jacket. And, Jill, I don't remember what she's wearing, but presumably
She's
it's
got,
nice.
I think, a sweater. Some sort of sweater.
Brad is on a cold streak with his jokes. Last episode, he mentioned Wilson wearing a hockey mask. And this episode, he says, "Hey, Dad, what if Mr. Leonard puts you in detention?" To which Tim says, "Darf," which was a good reaction because it's bad.
It's pretty bad. Yeah, it's funny that since you mentioned that last episode, they just kind of continue this trope.
The doubling down.
Yeah, it's like, how sometimes Randy and Brad get jealous of each other, and Brad's trying to take over his corner of the jokes, and it's just not landing. So
yeah, give those lines to Randy. All right, he can do it. Mr. Leonard arrives. His name is Art Leonard, hence arthritis. And yeah, there's a lot of banter here, a lot of like old man kind of jokes. Art Leonard is played by I had it and now it's gone. His name is Dick O'Neill, and he's been working a lot over the years. He did pass away in 1998 at the age of 70, so fairly young. But roles include Frosty and the Jerk. He plays Frank Carell in the original Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. He was in Wolfen. He did some episodes of Barney Miller, Family Matters, Sybil, among other things. And he'll be back for 2 additional episodes of Home Improvement. So
he does look familiar. So
I like this guy.
I like
we'll talk
him too.
more
He did
about it
well
at the end, but yeah, I think it's a good actor, well cast, good role.
Yeah, and they make pretty much the first mention here of what we'll see later is they talk about his legendary handshake, his iron grip handshake, and as he enters, he makes notice to Tim that he's got arthritis.
There's so many hints that like he's not going to be able to perform on Tool Time. Like there's just like so many small lines about how his grip just isn't quite what it used to be.
If you like needed an episode to teach people like kids about foreshadowing and what it looks like,
you're right.
This would be a good one.
Mr. Leonard, I noticed that you don't hold the fork very firmly. Is there something wrong with your hands? It is foreshadowing on 100,000 trillion.
A plenty for Howard J. Morris this time around. But
yeah, they're interacting, and he's getting along with everyone. They kind of talk about he talks about his relationship with Tim and what he saw in Tim, and Jill starts talking about a teacher that she had that she really liked, and there's really no other way to describe it, but Jill is just kind of acting very strange. And the joke is that she just says very strange things, and Tim kind of makes a face at her and moves forward. What'd you think about that?
I mean, was she acting very strange? She basically
quotes like Shakespeare and she keeps quoting like Shakespearean stories, and no one really cares. It's kind of odd.
I guess I only remember one quote from Macbeth, and she was basically saying the impact of this teacher had on her, that she always remembered this line.
Yeah, and everyone's like, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, well, she obviously doesn't know her audience because Tim and the boys are not
like,
one
no one
for
says
Shakespeare.
Anything. And it's weird because like no one says anything. The audience doesn't laugh at all, and it just creates this very kind of awkward moment. And
that would have been a great time for I Don't Think So, Jill.
Yeah, or like just drop in a fart, you know? Why not?
100% of the time that
Art
works.
Leonard is an old man. Like you're trying to tell me he just had corned beef and cabbage. And he's
you're
not
right.
Going to have some problems after the meal. Okay.
That was a missed. That's the foreshadowing I was talking about. But I guess it was a missed opportunity there. But we do find out that Art and Tim are pretty close. Again, one of those relationships that just pops up 84 episodes into the series. But Tim mentioned him on the honeymoon. He's made a big impact on him. And then Tim goes on to ask Art how he likes retirement, and he hates it. They gave him golf clubs as a gift, and he doesn't golf. He actually just melted them down to make a lamp. So he's a shop man through and through.
Yeah, he mentions that they kind of forced him out. I guess I should hold my questions on the nature of his retirement until the end of the episode. But knowing what we learn, and I mean, like, we're already kind of talking about how he has arthritis and he can't really do anything. I'm wondering, was he forced out because of the arthritis, or was it kind of something different? I don't know. What's your reading on that? Or was it just because there was someone cheaper that came around?
I was going to say,
what happens to young teachers come in and they're cheaper and they can get rid of older teachers now.
He had tenure and they wanted him out of there, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
It's hard to say, but yeah, we do see that, like, later on he doesn't really need to be able to demonstrate, so I don't think it's the arthritis.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
So later, I guess it's later, right? This is
it's
still
a long
at
dinner.
home. We're hanging out at home.
This should have been called My Dinner
with Art,
Shop Teacher. Yeah.
All right. So Art is continuing to tell stories of Tim. We get the story that Tim glued a table to his head, which was one of my very favorite jokes.
It's funny,
if you recall. And
oh yeah, you liked it originally. Yeah, I didn't like it originally, but I like the insinuation where it's like,
he did this before.
Haven't done that since.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you get the idea that they've been talking for an hour or two, and it's time for the boys to go up and do their homework. And Brad's not really interested in going up and doing his saxophone, which I thought we got rid of the saxophone, but it's back.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to do it, but Art, being the crafty master teacher that he is, he encourages Brad to keep at it, and we see that Art still got it.
And then Brad's like, "Can you show me how to play the saxophone?" And he's like, "Afraid I can't. My hands hurt. My hands hurt too much, Brad. I'd love to, but these darn hands."
These darn hands. Yeah, they did miss opportunities to really nail, beat a dead horse.
They could have taken it further.
But they don't. Instead, Art continues with the stories, talks about, the principal, the school board, and the PTA wanted Tim out of shop because he was just so dangerous. But he said no. And you know why? Because Tim just had so much darn enthusiasm, and he just truly saw his potential in him. So we get Art as the stand-up teacher. And they're really making Art look good. They're making him look like the best teacher ever.
It's just a great man.
Great man.
He's John Binford level of just like human being.
Except for running out with.
Well, yeah. When John Binford died, though, that was kind of revisionist history. We kind of rewrote that. It didn't matter anymore. But so the scene ends like basically Tim is asking. He says, "Hey, you should come on Tool Time. We'll do a salute to shop class. Would you be interested?" Art eventually agrees. Tim grunts, and he's kind of frightened by it.
This was funny. He startles Art by doing that.
And he's like, "I learned that in college." And he says, "You got into college?"
That was a good 10 seconds or
Art's
whatever that was.
Art's got the funnies, man. He's scratching my funny bone, that's for sure.
Tim and Art really have a chemistry. So I think we should boot Al off the show and just get Art in there.
Amen. At Tool Time, Al burns Tim. I don't know. I guess like they come out, they do the salute, and Al is kind of trying to put Tim in his place. Tim is like pretty. He's trying to really protect his image around Art. Like before he comes to dinner, he's like, "Hey guys, don't make any jokes at my expense." Like he doesn't want it to look like everyone kind of walks all over him, even though in actuality they kind of do. But Art comes out. And the surprise is that Tim invited some old shop students. He's got Frankie, Dr. Larry Lindover. This is from IMDb. I don't know these. And of course, Benny Baroni.
Benny Baroni.
I didn't know Benny and Tim went to high school together.
I feel like that was mentioned sometime before,
right,
but
good.
I don't know. There was like that whole episode where it seemed like Harry and Tim and Benny all went to high school together or something. It was very confusing.
It's good to have Benny in the fold, though,
I like, you said his name was Frankie?
I don't know. Yeah.
The smoker?
Well, he's not Dr. Larry Lindover, so I guess you got to be Frankie.
He's a smoker. He's got a very deep voice in his coughing. He made a lot of ashtrays back in the day.
Really put those to use.
And the doctor, I forget what his nickname was, but basically he had terrible hands.
Yeah, he said, I don't know. Then there's like a joke like terrible hands. He says, "What do you do now?" "I'm a neurosurgeon."
And then Art says, "My hands are terrible. Can you fix them?"
he holds up his hand and he shakes them. And he says, "Can you help me, son?"
He gets down on his knees.
Yeah.
All right. Art restores order. I don't know. It hurts.
No.
The pain, the arthritis. Art restores order a couple times in this scene by saying like, I don't know. He basically says
like cliche teacher stuff. He's like, do you guys want to sit here and yap all day?
And they say, "Sorry, Mr. Leonard."
Yeah, so that's what it's like for real teachers, definitely.
He commands the room.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So today they're going to make a toolbox because that's how they roll on this episode. They love toolboxes.
A little on the nose, but whatever.
Yeah. I guess it's an easy thing to make. It's better than a birdhouse because, Benny still owes him a birdhouse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tim, let's see. Tim kind of walks over and gives over the clipping shears, or whatever you want to call them, the cutters, to Art. He says, let's watch the master work, and they get the camera to zoom in, and he starts saying, like, oh, this should be an easy cut.
Yeah, easy cut.
And Art is visibly struggling here.
I couldn't believe it. I didn't see this coming.
Yeah, I thought
it's almost like there's something wrong with his hands.
I thought he'd cut right through.
They hadn't set this up at all. This completely came out of left field for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, he couldn't make the cut because he has bad hands.
Turns out he has arthritis.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And
it's
so
awkward,
Tim,
too.
It's very awkward. He walks away from the tool for a second, and Tim kind of takes over. And that's when things really heat up quite a bit. Like, if we got the Wilsometer out for some reason, it'd be busting through.
I mean, we wouldn't, because Wilson isn't in this scene, so you want to follow the rules of the show, certainly. But, yeah,
but if it was sitting on your desk for some reason...
If we got out just a regular thermometer and we measured the temp of this scene, it would be scalding hot because, tension is high. He is like Tim is trying to help or, jump in. He's just like, you really choose him out.
Don't you ever take a tool away from me.
Yeah. It was frightening, I thought.
Yeah, but then there's some comedic relief because Benny wonders if he still has to do that birdhouse.
Yeah, and Yo Teach storms off, and I don't really know how they salvage the show, but I often wonder that, and it doesn't seem to matter, so whatever.
They just go to commercial break and never come back.
Yeah, they do a quick commercial break. Yeah, next scene,
we're at home. Jill just got off the phone with her favorite teacher, the aforementioned Mrs. Holloway.
Poor Jill has nothing to do. Like the last 5 episodes, there's just
her and Al both.
I know, it's crazy. Yeah,
they're getting some stories with Wilson and other people, I guess.
That's fine. Yeah.
It's fine. She wanted to talk. Mrs. Holloway wanted to talk not about Jill, but her favorite student, Robin, and that really rubs Jill the wrong way.
Oh, she's pissed, man. She's pissed. That's so frustrating for Jill.
So yeah, she hangs up. She gets off the phone. Jill inquires about tool time. And Tim
she apparently had seen it, though, I guess.
Yeah, she said, what was that about, or something like that.
Yeah.
Tim says he offered help to a guy who didn't want it, and open and shut case, and that is episode 84.
And that's it. And I mean, he's not going to try to solve it. As far as we know...
We all know better.
Art passed away later that evening. He died in his sleep.
There was no reconciliation.
Something to do with his hands? I don't know. No, Tim, he offered help to a man that didn't want it. Art went back to Toledo, which at some point in the episodes, they make Toledo seem like it's so far away. And then when Tim goes down there, they make it clear that it's close. But yeah, Tim is so surprised that Art is up from Toledo, which is... an hour drive probably.
Art's on Social Security, and he didn't get a pension, so
that's true.
He doesn't have any money.
He's actually probably more mad about that than his hands. But the phone rings. Jill's teacher calls again. It's Miss Holloway, but yeah, she wants somebody else's number. Did you already mention that?
She wants Robin's number.
Yeah, she wants Robin's number.
That's kind of how this scene ends, because Jill's excited. She's like, "Oh, I'm so glad she called back."
She slams the phone down.
Yeah, she's not happy.
It's a good B plot.
The C
plot's the saxophone.
Honestly, I think the saxophone is the B plot.
B plot. This is the C plot. Yeah, I mean the saxophone's better. I would say that.
C plot is the death of the logo.
Yeah, that's my A plot. Tim steps outside to the fence, and
we're gonna step outside for a break.
We're gonna step outside for a quick break and play a clip in the meantime. Jordan, go ahead and hit the clip.
Hey Wilson, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
If a boulder fell on you, would you ask me for help?
Well, that depends. Are you the reason the boulder fell on me?
That doesn't matter.
Well, it does to me. I'm the one under the boulder.
All right, let's say it's my fault. Wouldn't you be too proud to ask for my help?
Well, why would I be too proud?
Because you're a man.
Well, I guess that would depend on what part of me was crushed by the boulder. Tim, are you speaking metaphorically?
No, I'm just making a comparison. Let's say you couldn't use your hands real well anymore, and I tried to help you out. It'd make you feel like you had no dignity left.
Boulder Dash.
Well, what if you were a tool man like my old shop teacher and me? When we lose our hands, we lose everything.
Tim, there's a lot more to a man than just his hands. You have to look at his gestalt.
It's a good way to get a black eye in a locker room.
Tim, Gestalt is a psychological term meaning that the whole is more than the sum of the parts. I mean, take you for an example. You're a heck of a lot more than just Tim the Tool Man.
Yeah, but for guys, what we do is who we are.
Well, unfortunately, sometimes society pressures men to define themselves in terms of their work.
I don't feel any pressure. I like being Tim the Tool Man.
Yeah? What happens when someday you're no longer able to be Tim the Tool Man?
Oh, man, that'd be horrible. I'd feel useless. I wouldn't be myself anymore.
Tim, you are also a great husband. You're a great father. You're a great neighbor. I think you might find your true happiness lies in being Tim the Man.
That's a good point. I like that one. Would you mind driving down to Toledo and tell my old shop teacher that?
Well, I think it would have more meaning coming from you, Tim, even though I do enjoy Toledo. They say it used to be the glass capital of the world.
Well, if I'm going, I better get my glass in gear. Yeah.
Outside.
Hey, I just want to say sorry for hitting the clip. I was just
we don't condone any sort of
No,
violence.
that's my bad. Yeah,
on this podcast. Yeah. So, outside, Wilson is chopping wood. He's hitting wood, I guess. And Tim inquires, if a boulder fell on you, would you ask for my help? To which Wilson asks, well, was it your fault the boulder's on me? And then they get down to brass tacks.
And then Tim says, would it make you less of a man if you asked? And Wilson says, it depends on where it hit me. And I'm thinking, whoa. Wilson, you nasty.
Wilson's back on track after...
he almost moved, and now he's coming back with some primo dick jokes. So
he just had to really get focused. Yeah, it was kind of like a sabbatical. When he switched and went around the other side of the fence, he got a break for a week, and Tim gave some advice, and now he's back to it. But, they talk about Gestalt. He basically...
What is Gestalt, Jordan?
He basically gets Tim to realize that you are more than just the sum of your parts. So you're more than just a tool man. You're more than just a parent. You're Tim. And you're a very unique person, and
Art is not defined by his hands.
Yes, although Art thinks so. That's the problem. And the reason that this is for men is because society pressures men to be defined by their work.
Mm-hmm.
And Tim likes his work, so it's kind of hard for him to see it this way. And then Wilson says, "Well, what happens when you can't work anymore?" And that really hits home for him. So
yeah, and he mentions that he lives in Toledo, and that Tim's gonna go down there and see him. And Wilson says it's the glass capital of the world. Which is cool. I've been to Toledo. I didn't know.
Yeah, you're going to go back now.
I'm thinking about it, yeah. Day trip.
You love glass.
Yeah. Glass and glass blowing, two of my favorite things.
All right, so Tim makes that drive that you mentioned to Toledo. It's about an 80-minute drive from Google Maps, what I saw. And he kind of just... I just wonder, did he call Art ahead of time? Did he just, walk
He definitely didn't call Art ahead of time.
So he just walked into his garage hoping that he'd be there? I don't know.
Do you think Art is a... Is it a widower? Is a widower? Or is that how you say it for a man?
I don't know. I'm just going to move on. I think everyone gets the idea.
Okay, sure. Do you think that he is married, his wife has passed away?
Yeah, we don't really get any indications besides the fact that she's never mentioned or seen on screen or yelling off screen or anything like that.
Right.
We do see that the whole garage is just kind of dedicated to his work and his shop. So maybe he is.
Do you think he was married to his job?
That's why it's so hard.
Much like you.
Yeah, much like me. That's why it's so hard for him to lose his hands, because now he doesn't have that job anymore.
Amen. Yeah, it is widower. I was right. I should be more confident in myself. I'm rarely wrong.
You shouldn't come to me for answers. That's
for
sure.
You don't know. You know nothing. So Tim is there. He apologizes. Ye Olde Shoppe Teacher... He comes around pretty quickly. He's like...
that's the title you're giving him.
Ye Olde Shoppe Teacher. He's like, what are you doing here? And Tim's like, I drove 3 hours because I got lost to see you. And he's like, I bet I made a real fool of myself today. And Tim said no, but really, actually, he did. And yeah, it's he's relaying Wilson's information. There is a pretty good... what does he say? So Tim is trying to say, like, you're a great teacher. It isn't so much your woodworking or your metal shop working that defines you. It's your ability to teach and inspire. And he mentions, his ability to convince Brad to practice the sax earlier. And he says, I've used various examples, Lasorda, Mahatma Gandhi. And then Tim says that they had very different eating habits, which really got me both times. I think it's really funny. I don't know why. I just really thought that was funny. Yeah.
There's some good lines in this episode. So Tim's talking about, you're more than a set of hands. And as you said, brings up the Brad example. He also says that, guys lined up to be on Tool Time because of you. So he made a big impact on his students. So he's building Art back up here. He's an architect.
Architect?
Yeah, architect. Art is frustrating.
You after that great joke, you've sort of come unwound here.
I'm unhinged. I need to be built back up myself.
Did you notice here, there's a line, I don't know if it's flubbed, where Art says, he says, for Pete's sake, pick up that tool chest for Pete's sake.
Yeah, I did notice that the second time.
Do you think that has to be a flub? No one says for Pete's sake twice in the same sentence.
Unless you're the old shop teacher.
Also, Art mentions, he's talking about how he's sad that his hands have betrayed him. He's like, when I was young and playing football, I could catch anything that was thrown to me. You think Art's like an inch over 5'1"?
Hey, he was one of those like Julian Edelman
like
types.
A Wes Welker type. I mean, I'm sure football players have gotten bigger over time.
It's like
this was pre-face mask era, so I guess kind of went.
It's kind of like how I started in those Turkey Bowl games that we used to play. Just that slot receiver no one could catch.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't remember you ever getting voted MVP though. So
you've got memory loss. That's your problem.
True. Sorry, from all the hits. Don't let your kids play football. The scene ends. It's nice. They end up working on. They want to build a tool chest, toolbox.
Tool chest.
Tool chest. Duncan's toy chest.
He calls him Timmy, which is a nice touch. He kind of goes back. There is also a joke where Tim wants to soup up this basic toolbox, and Art says,
can't you just ever do anything?
Yeah, I guess that was the Pete's sake line that you were talking about.
For Pete's sake, can't you just ever do anything normal for Pete's sake?
Pete.
Final scene here.
Back at home.
We
haven't been there enough this episode.
Jill's trying to study, but Art has so inspired Brad that he just is poorly playing the saxophone at all hours of the day. And Jill so desperately wants him to stop that she's offering, do you want me to make you a snack? I'll let you eat junk food. Heightens. Would you like to take the car? To which
that one stops him dead in his tracks.
Really? And she's like, no. Tim arrives and he shows her the new toolbox. Or tool chest, depending on
how you're feeling.
She's impressed. Tim calls her Miss Sarcastic Pants, which, I've called out a lot of good lines in the episode. That is among the worst.
Did you notice that Jill looked down at her pants after?
She did?
Yeah, she's like, what is he talking about?
Miss Sarcastic Pants, what is that? Tim has built a new toilet paper dispenser. It's a hybrid between a toilet paper dispenser and a clapper.
And this one's indoor. The other one was outdoor.
Yeah, for sure. So when she claps, it comes down, and when she claps again, it rolls back up. And that's roll credits fade to black. Ye Olde Shoppe Teacher, a.k.a. Artritis.
Artritis. Adam, I'll let you go first this time.
Sure. With what?
With your thoughts, highs and lows.
Okay, highs and lows.
General feedback.
I don't know if we're still doing highs and lows or.
You want to get rid of that?
Abandon the theme.
You've been pushing to replace that with just great sponsors. So.
Yeah, just more.
So we might as well talk more about pickles.
Yeah, we will at the end of the episode. So highs and lows. Yeah, I like this episode. I enjoyed Art Leonard, a.k.a. Dick O'Neill. I thought he was a good performer. It's a good wrinkle.
Talking about his wrinkles? Or
his wrinkles. They were good wrinkles. I enjoyed looking at his face. It was aesthetically appealing to me. No, it's cool. It's a good idea for an episode.
Yep.
It's something they haven't done before, and we always like that because we so often see the same thing. So I like that. There wasn't much else for other people to do. Like Jill and the kids had literally nothing. Al continues to have nothing. But this is a conflict that could withstand the weight of kind of being the whole episode. So there's a lot of good lines. It's funny. The relationship's good. It's the tool time scene where he can't do it, where he can't cut, is genuinely pretty awkward and tense, which is not often an emotion that I feel when watching Home Improvement.
No.
But overall funny, good episode. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it reminded me a little bit of that Chris McDonald episode that we liked so much early on. Just a different, maybe a little bit more serious tone to an episode that we weren't expecting, and still had some good lines. Had some strong acting by Tim and Artritis, and just overall enjoyed it pretty well. Not too many bad lines. Just like you said, there's not a lot to do for the
sarcastic pants.
Yeah, that was not great. Wilson's back on his A game, and not a lot for the family to do otherwise. And the saxophone is just the thing that never dies. It just comes
saxophone
back
is the new library fundraiser. It's just like whenever they need it, it's going to be there.
Yeah, and it's there today. So yeah, I did enjoy it as well. We're on a string of a couple good episodes. So
yeah, 2 in a row that have been, I would say, above average. So that's good. That means we're due for 4 or 5, 6 bad ones in a row. I would say
at least. All right.
So, well, Jordan, you want to roll into some social media?
Yeah, let's get to Sean's social media corner. If you want to reach out to us, you can go to thehomeandpodcast.com. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/homeandpodcast. Our Twitter handle is at homeandpodcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so for free by just leaving a review. If you want to support the show and kind of get early access to this reboot that we're talking about, you'll have full access to reading the whole script, all 20-some pages of it, which are very enjoyable. And maybe Adam will just like it so much that he'll continue making more episodes. And maybe that's
no.
I'm gonna make promises for Adam.
No, I'm not doing another. This is the only, unless
Hey, if you start getting a bunch of Patreon subscribers, our supporters.
The only scenario where I'm writing more home improvement episodes is in a world where they buy, Windancer buys the reboot script, and I am brought on to the home improvement reboot staff and given, a job and a salary. Otherwise, this is it.
Yeah, I'll see if I can work something out with
Adam.
Adam.
I don't know if that's doable or not. That'd be cool, So,
but
we'll see.
I was thinking maybe our patrons, maybe they get some design choices over some of the things that are covered in the reboot series that Adam is going to write, regardless of if it gets picked up or not. But we'll see. Anyways, go to patreon.com/homeandpodcast if you'd like to do that, and get full access to that. So, Adam, what's going on Twitter? Who you've been talking to? What kind of conversations you've been having? What kind of polls are going on there? I just want to know.
No polls this week. I didn't do one. It was Wednesday morning, and I just couldn't think of one. And I thought, you know what? Maybe we take the week off. What's a week without a poll? Biggest news this week, and I'm hesitant to say a lot about it, but I had asked dear Patricia Richardson if she'd be interested in coming on our 100th episode, and she said, "When is it? I'm working and traveling the next 4 weeks." Now, there were follow-up questions that she did not respond to, so I'm not going to say that anything is on the books or set to happen, but we're on her radar, and our 100th episode is months and months away, so this is promising. And
encouraging news.
Encouraging, and some people respond to that, so... otherwise, what do we got here? Mark Volbeck enjoyed the photo of James Cromwell and Wilson. He said, super like, and I say, you're a super guy, Mark. Boar Meets World, a Boy Meets World podcast, complimented our opening music, so we appreciate that. And Steve Miller, at Calamity Shane, which is a dear friend I made on my most recent cruise, who sat at my dinner table with me, and we hung out a little bit throughout. He's taken to the podcast. We talked about it at dinner, and he was kind enough to listen to an episode on the cruise. And apparently, he's continued on because he posted a photo of a recent episode that we covered, and I think he's going to follow along until he decides not to, which will eventually happen. But we're happy to have you on board for the meantime, Steve. So that is it for me.
So you're not going to try to get the rest of the podcast funds since you're going to use this as a networking event, this cruise of yours, get reimbursement of some kind?
I don't understand the question. Sorry.
All right. Well, I'm not going to repeat it, so we're going to leave it there. With that, it's your turn for the question of the week, Adam.
Okay, cool. Jordan, you ever been to Toledo?
When you said good question, I really thought it would be something different.
Mm-hmm.
I've just been passing through. I don't remember any time stopping into Toledo.
When you think of Toledo, what do you associate it with? What do you know about it? What are your feelings towards it?
I think about that war such a long time ago with Britain and Toledo wanting to be part of Michigan, and that whole thing and how it shook out, and it didn't work out for Toledo, but it worked out for Michigan, I guess. I don't know. No, I actually think about college football, I guess.
Okay, Maction?
Yeah, some action. Sometimes they're a high-scoring team. They're the Toledo Rockets.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't really have a lot of thoughts about Toledo. I hope you do, because it's a really strange question to ask otherwise.
No, I mean, not really. Anything else besides what you said? No, I've driven through Toledo. Here's the thing about Toledo that will surprise listeners. You drive past Toledo, kind of a nice skyline.
Really?
Yeah. Next time you drive through Toledo, which I know you do semi-regularly, take a look at the skyline, and it's bigger than you might expect. There's been 2 times in my life where I've been taken aback by skylines. 1, Toledo. 2, Wilmington, Delaware. These were 2 skylines I did not see coming, and I always appreciate a good skyline that I don't expect.
I'm looking at it right now. I think what adds to the skyline is perhaps the fact that it's right on the water there, and you get kind of the nice ambiance and the nice aesthetic
it's not bad.
Look there, and some taller buildings, not a dense downtown by any means, but it's
you
nice.
Don't need to validate. You don't need to validate it, Jordan. I know it's a good skyline. Otherwise, Tigers AAA team is the Toledo Mud Hens. So
yes.
I've never been to a game, but you hear a lot about the Toledo Mud Hens. Otherwise, that's about it. Just wanted to give a shout out to that nice Toledo skyline. I'm going to tweet at the Toledo Chamber of Commerce or their social media and see if we can get some cross promo, because I doubt Toledo's getting a lot of play on podcasts, but maybe it should get more.
They should, yeah. Based on what you're saying. If people want to look up more about that war, it's called the Toledo War. So.
See, I don't even know anything about that, so I gotta look that up because it sounds interesting.
Yeah, well, you know me in history.
No, is there a relationship? I was a history minor, so I am the one that should be saying that. Jordan, I happen to again know what episode we're covering.
Oh man, you're really taking all my shine.
I know. It's called Some Like It Hot Rod.
Wait,
what? We get a little more hot rod. If there's one thing that this show needs, it's more episodes built around that hot rod.
Not more cowbell, but more hot rod.
More hot rod. That blue-collar hot rod, working-class hot rod. All right, Jordan, it's been a pleasure talking Ye Olde Shop Teacher with you. Listeners, thank you for listening. Jordan, thank you for joining me. I guess I should say take care.
Take care, everybody.